Welcome back to JG3 Reviews. I've got another fountain pen that I want to share with you. This one is the Jinhao x750. Jinhao is a Chinese brand, and I've done a few reviews of their pens already, but if you're new to the channel, they're a Chinese brand of pen and very good quality and yet inexpensive. So they're not cheap, but they're inexpensive, but really good quality. And the more I bought, the more I have come to respect this brand, and they're respected all over the world already anyway. But I've got several over the last few years, and this is a newer pen to me. It's the X750, and it's a really nice pen. It's another one of these pens that you look at it and just holding it in the hand and looking at the pen, you think that surely this pen costs about 5 to 10 times what you paid for it. And that really makes you appreciate the pen just on first impression. But does that impression hold up? Does it write well? Is it a good pen? Does the nib any good? That's what we're going to look at today as we look at this review. So let's flip the camera and we'll look at the X750. Okay, so here's a good look at the pen. You'll notice that on the metal band here, you have Jinhao, and then as you turn it around, there's some flourish there, and then the model number. The X750 is there as well. And just a nice touch on the metal band there. Very simple cap with this teardrop sort of clip. And it is a nice, strong, it's a sturdy clip. That's going to hang on to your shirt pocket. You don't have to worry about that. Some people don't like strong clips because they have a hard time getting those onto the pocket. But I can't stand it when they're weak, because then they slide around and bunch up your pocket, and I don't even like a shirt pocket anyway, so I'm already picky about that. I want it to work and work right. So this one's a good, nice, sturdy clip. It ought to stay in place when you're working through the day and using this as a pen. And this is a good pen. It's good around the office pen. It makes a nice impression. I got mine in solid black, as you can see. They also have it in matte black and silver, and I think orange and blue, and several different colors that you'll be able to find. You'll be able to find one that suits your taste. I wanted this just in a classic, glossy black pen, and I think it's a handsome pen. It is a metal pen, and so the weight is good. It's not an overly light pen. It's not going to feel hollow or cheap or anything like that. It's not light like the Platinum Placer I reviewed last week. If you want to go back and look at that video, it's aluminum, very high quality pen, but it is light. But this is a heftier pen, and that's just a matter of taste, which way you like that to be. It's a push-on cap. It holds on real well. It will post. For some people, that's gonna, because of the weight, that may be a little bit of too much weight, more than you want to swing around while you're writing, but it certainly does post securely. There's no problem there. Nib is pretty much a standard number 6 Jinhao nib. I did have a little bit of an issue with this one. I usually don't with the Jinhao nibs. I did with this one. It was hard starting. I simply pressed hard a few lines, and that was enough. That brought it just enough out to where now it just writes perfectly. Hopefully it will in our writing test here, because that'd be a shame if it didn't. But I've been using it the last few days since I did that, and it's been writing very well. It has the normal Jinhao logo on the nib there, the chariot, and you'll notice it says 18 karat gold, which it clearly is not. That's just because Jinhao will use the same nib whether they plate it or not. And so if you get one that's not plated, it's still going to say it on there. That's just a normal Jinhao thing. And you're getting this pen at such a good deal, it's kind of hard to be too picky about that. And it writes really well. It does come with, as Jinhao's usually do, their standard converter. There are probably better converters out there, but honestly, I've never had trouble with any of theirs. And I've been using some pens with it for 2 or 3 years probably, maybe even longer as time flies and I don't always remember. I would suggest, you'll notice now the ink is staying up there. You can take it apart. You remove the metal sleeve and pull this out. Do all of that very carefully and do it when it's empty. And you could put I would say a BB, a ball bearing, in there. Use one that's not going to rust. That's important. And then it would break the surface of this ink, and that's a good idea to do. This one doesn't have that. The Platinum that I reviewed last week has that in all their cartridges. And So that would be helpful. But very good pen. Like I say, I never have any trouble with these. The only thing I did have was that nib that did it a little bit of a hard start, but that was easily fixed just simply by writing a few times with a little bit more pressure than normal, and it didn't take but a couple of minutes, and it's worked great ever since. Just a good looking pen, and one that will absolutely not break your bank. I think this is another pen that's a great gift pen, I think. If you gave one to me, it sure wouldn't bother me. Really nice pen and well made, and I've been impressed. I've had this for a little bit, and I've liked it. Now, probably about a week or so, and I really liked it. To give you an idea on size, because I told you that it was a little bit hefty, it's nowhere near as hefty as the Jinhao 59? Yes, the Jinhao 159, which is the giant pen. And certainly this one is heavier and bulkier, but this will give you some size difference. Compare that to the Jinhao 159. Week before last, maybe. Something like that. I reviewed this pen, the Jinhao x750. They're kind of similar pens when you're looking at them by themselves. When you put them up next to each other, there are really some distinct differences. The barrel design is really quite different. They both kind of come to a teardrop, but their clips are quite different. This one generally comes in a silver trim. This one generally comes in a gold trim or gold tone trim. This is a lacquered style finish. This is not. This is just a glossy black. And this one comes with the same size nib, but you'll notice that this one does have some plating of what I wouldn't say for sure. But for the price I paid for it, I'm pretty sure that's not gold. But anyway, this would give you, if you have an x450, then this would give you a little bit of an idea of the size and the weight, because they're really quite similar, even though their styling is a bit different. Of course, I mentioned the Platinum Placer, way heavier than the Platinum Placer. It's a light pen. And this is the Pilot Metropolitan, and you may have one of these. I haven't reviewed this pen, but this is a great pen. Very similar in size. The Pilot a little bit slimmer and a little bit lighter. But another excellent pen. We'll get around to reviewing that eventually as well. That gives you some idea of the size. The weight is very similar to the x450 if you have one of those, but it definitely does not feel like a cheap pen. It feels like a substantial pen. It's well made, looks good, and I think it's going to be a pen that will serve you well for quite a while. Let's change over our camera and put this to the writing test, because as good as it looks, it doesn't matter if it can't write. So let's do that. So I have this inked up with Noodler's ink, and it's a midnight blue. So that gives you, this is an ink that I've used in other reviews too. So if you compare it to those, that may give you another idea. This is a really nice ink, and Noodler's just makes some great stuff. So I'd highly suggest that, and I will leave a link to that in the description, and a link to this pen in the description as well, so that you can find it. This is the Jinhao. Now you notice, as I said, I'd had trouble with hard starts, but you notice there was no trouble there whatsoever. I just think it just needed just a little bit of adjustment, and that totally worked. So this is a Noodler's, and that is Midnight Blue. You can see how that's writing. It really is a good writing pen. It just needed a little adjustment, and most of the time they don't. In fact, almost never. But this one just needed a little bit of TLC, and once it did, it just excellent writing pen. You can see there. Woo! I can't write today. My 6th grade teacher would not be happy with this, would she? And we had to do that at least once a week to work on our handwriting, and yeah, it wouldn't be so great. But you can kind of see how that's a little bit of a skip there, but that's not been typical since the fix. I've been impressed. You can see that maybe a little bit closer. You can see the flow there. It is a medium nib, and most of the time when I see these, that's what they are. And maybe all the time when I see them, that's what they are. I don't know if I bought a Jinhao that had a fine tip. I'm sure they make them but that's what I always see. So the Jinhao x750, I think it's another great gift pen. It's a great pen for yourself. Use this around the office. I used it all week around the office and just absolutely enjoyed it. It's just a really nice pen. So if you're looking for one that is a good, affordable pen, I'd really suggest the Jinhao 750. And if that doesn't suit your taste, then I'd suggest the Jinhao 450. And if you want something big, the 159. And they're just all good pens. Every one of these has been a great pen. And so there you go. Thank you very much. Like and subscribe. Come back next week because we'll have some other pens probably next Saturday ready for you. I'm going to do a review on a couple of pocket pens that are my absolute favorite that I keep handy a lot of times when I maybe don't want to carry something this big or this nice. So come back next week and we'll have another review. Have a great week.